With version 3.2, we have worked on improving the generators. The first feature that you're going to see is the generator's auto import. For example, if I go into the Angular folder and then index.components, we see that we have a bunch of components imported from the correct location and then registered to the Angular module app.components. Now let's take a look how they auto-import. For example, if I go to the terminal and create a new component by running artisan ng component and let's call it list users, we see that it has been automatically registered here. So it was imported and then registered. So this is a very nice feature. You don't have to do anything anymore about it. You don't have to open the index.components. And it works for config, directives, filters, and services. So this is very cool, but in case you cannot use it, you can just go to config and then generators.php and then you can disable the auto import. And you can also disable it by passing the --no import flag. So that's all for the auto import. Another thing that we're going to see is that also these generators automatically generate their own tests. So if I write in git status, we can see that we also have a new file generated in tests, Angular app components, and then list users.component.spec.js. So this is a spec file for this component. And we see that it's using ngdescribe. Now ngdescribe is a very cool module that allows you to write convenient tests, convenient BDD for Angular. So this is an example of how you can use it. You can just pass in the module, and in our example, the generator automatically is injecting the element, is automatically creating an instance of the element, and you can use the dependencies. So for example, you can type in inject, and if you want $HTTP, and then you can go ahead and use it by writing deps.http, or even if it's just Angular, you can do it. If you want to look at other examples, you can go ahead and see how we've written some tests for the forgot password. So this is how we easily mock the HTTP responses and how we get the scope and so on. This can also be disabled, by the way, in config generators.php. And you can also modify the path. So you can enable it for component services directives. It's already enabled, you can disable it, and you can change the path. You have the root path and the components directive services which are appended to the root. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is that the artisan ng directive command is back. So we can now generate directives. So let's call it unless. And if you want to know more about the difference between the directives and the components, I would recommend that you read this on the official Angular documentation. So this is linked in our documentation. Whenever you read about artisan ng directive, we have a link for this documentation. And so let me show you a quick example. So for directives, it's different. Most probably you don't need the view, and this is why we have the link function with the scope, element, attributes, and the controllers. So I hope you enjoyed this screencast and see you very soon.